Welcome back to Conversations with Corey. It's a program where I'll sit down with friends or peers to have an open and honest conversation. A conversation about a topic that aligns with our DE&I values, stand for equality. At AT&T, we approach diversity, equity, and inclusion by focusing on people and their experiences. It's how we can cultivate an inclusive culture as well as ensure all voices are heard. During today's conversation, we're going to chat about the power of representation and diversity in the Asian American and Pacific Islander community. We'll talk about how their experiences, heritage, and continued contributions to our business and our society are a vital part of the inclusive world we're working to build. We will also address the challenges and issues that impact the AAPI community. Look, I am glad to welcome Tu Nguyen, who's the Executive Director of the OCA, Asian Pacific American Advocates, which is one of the nation's oldest AAPI civil rights organizations. Tu made history as the youngest ever Executive Director of OCA and the first Vietnamese American to serve in that role. Also joining us is Ellen Kame. She's the California Area Manager for our External Affairs team, and she works directly to make change and impact the communities that we serve. So Tu, I want to start with you.
I'm from Houston, Texas, and I'm the daughter of Vietnamese refugees that came to the States in the late 70s, early 80s as boat refugees. They came to the Bay in Houston, and then eventually I was born and raised in Texas, and my background is actually originally as a pre-med. So I have dual degrees in chemistry and sociology, and what really happened there was I was pre-med because I wanted to help my community, help people. And at the time, I thought medicine was, the most direct, hands-on approach to doing that. And it wasn't until college when I was exposed to different Asian American student organizations and then got connected with OCA's Greater Houston chapter, because OCA has chapters across the country. Mm-hmm. So I was connected with this OCA Houston chapter, and as a volunteer, I was helping them organize youth, and I didn't realize that community organizing and pursuing civil rights work was a viable career. It was never something that I grew up seeing AAPIs really doing a lot. OCA really gave me the first exposure of a career in civil rights work. And I really enjoyed it because I just really enjoyed being around people, creating spaces for people. I grew up in a nail salon. I'm actually a licensed nail technician in Texas as well. And so having that community of people in the nail salon really gave me a template of how can you build bridges, connect people of different backgrounds. And through the work at OCA, I saw a lot of parallels. And so then I found my passion in organizing. So I left my pre-med background and started at OCA first as the communications person, because this old civil rights org was really at the time kind of antiquated. We turned 50 next year. And I saw a lot of potential in OCA that there is still a need for organizing APIs across the country, and especially reaching out to young millennials, Gen Zs. And OCA at the time honestly wasn't doing as good of a job as it could be. There was a lot of potential untapped. And so I was let me work at the National Center in the comms department and judge up their social media, make it hip, rebrand it. And from there, just all of the community building work has led me to the executive director role, where I'm really looking forward to bringing OCA into a new area the next 50 years of a different kind of organizing, because the issues have changed.
Cool. So that's a very interesting background. So it spans everything from a chemistry major to a nail technician. So that is interesting. So Ellen, as an AT&T employee, you work side by side with elected city officials to make change in your local community. And I also hear that you're an elected official yourself. So tell us a little more about your background, your career journey, and your role here at AT&T.
Thanks so much, Corey. Yes, I wear two different hats. One of them is the external and legislative affairs team at AT&T. June, I actually celebrate my 3 years on the California team. And the other is more near and dear to my heart, which is the public sector and public service. I had the fortune of growing up in an area in California that was dubbed the feminist capital of the world. And that's because there were so many female elected officials on the local level. So I had the unique opportunity growing up as a young girl to see women leading, women taking charge and making change in their community. So actually, my mother is an elected official, and she has been for about 30 years. And so she would take me when I was in elementary school to, fundraisers, and I would meet women, and I was that person with like the Lisa Frank stationery, getting autographs, and telling my mom that I wanted to do the same and wanted to help my community. So, had the fortune of being in Washington D.C. to work on Capitol Hill. Came back to my community and got involved on the local level. And in 2018, I was elected, and I've had the pleasure of serving the last 4 years and being a mayor and vice mayor. It's been such a nice intersect with my work at AT&T because I've been able to lead on diversity, equity, and inclusion work on my council as well.
Cool. Thanks for sharing that. Another interesting background. So I don't know if I should refer to you for the rest of this conversation as Ellen or as Madam Mayor, whatever one you're most comfortable with.
Ellen is perfect.
Just Ellen is just fine, huh? Oh, then we'll stick with Ellen. Look, one of the things I want to talk to both of you about and get your perspectives on is a really sensitive matter that's impacting the community. And that is this unfortunate long history of bias and discrimination against the AAPI community. We think about all of the recent attacks that the AAPI community has been subjected to, violent attacks. These incidents have ignited this launch of the Stop Asian Hate movement. What I want to know from the two of you is how has this impacted both of you personally, as well as how you move around and interact with the community?
So, this really does hit home. I'm actually mixed race. So my father is Japanese American. He was born actually in an incarceration camp at Heart Mountain in Wyoming. And my mother is Chinese and Puerto Rican from New York. And so growing up for myself, being mixed race, but maybe presenting in a certain way physically, I never really felt like I was Asian enough or Latina enough. And so, not only was I mixed race, but I was like mixed religions. My dad's Jodo Shinshu Buddhist, and my mom is, Catholic. So I also had that in the mix. So I really, I think, struggled with identity, having to check the other box because you had to please choose one. But I would say with what we've been seeing the last, over 2 years with the COVID-19 pandemic, is kind of a reckoning with our history, right? America, in my personal family experience, right? You had over 120,000 American citizens, Japanese Americans, put into 10 incarceration camps across our country. And I think the most difficult part for me during this time was my grandparents and my dad, who was born in one. They were here because they believe in the hope of America and the American dream. My grandfather was like the proudest he could ever be of being American. And to have me telling my dad, hey, like, I don't really want you getting your groceries, want you going outside. I want to do those things for you because I don't know what will happen to you. I think that was a really difficult moment.
I appreciate you sharing that background and your own experience. Tu, what about you?
Yeah, I was placed in a really unique position being at the head of an API civil rights organization, but also the daughter of a nail salon family, right? With all of the anti-Asian hate going on, my mom continuing to go to work in a nail salon, a good chunk of anti-Asian hate incidences that have been reported happen in small businesses. And so there's that fear of just someone coming into the nail salon and either saying or doing something hateful or even harmful. It's unfortunate that a lot of the work that we've been doing at OCA has to have been spurred out of fear, right? As like a response to that. But at the same time, like Ellen, what you were saying is your family story about incarceration. It's what's crazy, not just about seeing a hate incident and not anyone stepping in, but it's crazier to hear that there's still a lot of people out there who aren't educated about Japanese internment, about the discrimination of Chinese Americans, about even interracial marriage was not even allowed until very recently in the American history. And so at OCA, we not only did our chapters across the country respond to the physical incidences of hate, beyond that, we really double down on API history education.
I think that's smart. I think that's really smart. Ellen, we are roughly about a year since the Atlanta attacks. When you give yourself the opportunity to sort of pause for a second and think about what does progress look like in the year since those attacks, and more importantly, in 22 and beyond. And so think about that, answer that, and then also what can we as allies, what can we do to continue supporting the work that both of you just described?
I think what comes to top of mind for me is that we need to continue the conversation. And I think as we emerge from the recovery of the COVID-19 pandemic, we can't just kind of push it away or say, okay, the pandemic's over. So this like discrimination that we're seeing, this 339% increase in violence against our AAPI community, okay, that's done. And now we can focus on going back to whatever the new normal is, right? I think it's staying top of mind in the conversation. And as you and two were talking, I would say the API community has such a challenge. It's such a broad umbrella that falls under that category. We're talking about people from our native islands, right? Like Guamanians, Fiji, Hawaii, and then you're talking about East Asians, you're talking about South Asian. We're all under this umbrella term. And I think having people understand that as well, that, that API is such a large group, and they just kind of put us all together. But I think kind of tackling that challenge, because we also have our intergenerational challenges of maybe we didn't want to say something and speak out, but I think as we're approaching, as you mentioned, the 1-year anniversary of the Atlanta shootings, we need to make sure that we're continuing to bring the awareness, and that this problem isn't something that's going to like go away, that we need to continue to be active.
Tu, what about you?
Progress is going to look like when everyone does step in to protect a victim of hate when they see it, or call out an incident of hate when they see it, because it's not necessarily physical, right? But calling out microaggressions, calling out rhetoric that is harmful or dangerous, because a lot of the hate that is going on right now is spurred by messaging and language, the language used around APIs, around communities of color, and other marginalized communities. So calling out when someone's using rhetoric that is harmful to other communities, I think that's really important. And even I know it's a really sad and heavy topic, but on the flip side of that, progress is also our communities coming together, not just in times of fear, but in good times. And so I think when we talk about building allyship and solidarity, it's not just when someone's in danger or a community is under attack, but also coming together when there's great things to celebrate.
I couldn't agree with both of you more. Both of you have made this point in this conversation so far. And so I want to emphasize it for all of us, that while we use the term AAPI and Asian American Pacific Islander, the community is not a monolith. It's not a monolith. And there is incredible diversity within that community. So when we see an individual, get to know Ellen, get to know two, understand who they are, their experience, and don't see them as AAPI. And so all of us are unique, and it's one of the things we focus on at AT&T is get to know the individual, appreciate, respect, and embrace the individual. But when we have these conversations, we use those terms. So I just wanted to share that. The other thing, and two, I thought you made this point really well, is that we have to be active in how we address some of these challenges that the community is facing. So when you're a part of some conversation and you hear something that is hateful, you observe something that you know is inappropriate, you know it's not right, then we can't just silently stand by and watch that or allow that to happen. So Ellen, as you know at AT&T, we have a really strong belief that our society does not work if it doesn't work equally for all. That's why one of our prominent values is stand for equality. Now, I understand that you're on the ENLA D&I task force. So share with me some of the recent efforts that the company has led in solidarity and support of the AAPI community.
Well, thanks, Corey. I am so proud of AT&T. Last year, when we were seeing, a real rise, AT&T and Warner Media committed $7 million to the Stop AAPI Hate initiative, and nearly 1 million of that went to the state of California. Across the state, we gave it to 19 organizations serving our Asian American community, and really helped them kind of amplify their voices and the message. And now we're seeing AT&T with our connected learning centers. We just opened one in San Francisco last month with our Asian American Resource Center, where we're trying to help bridge the digital divide. Because I think what they haven't necessarily touched on is the model minority myth, where all Asian Americans are successful and good at math. I am not the chemistry major too was. I was an English major, Japanese minor, with an MPA on top of that. So, I think being able to bring digital equity and work on creating greater broadband access has also been it, because it's not just supporting the nonprofit organizations who are doing the good work. We at AT&T also have an opportunity to make sure that people are connected.
Cool. Lots of good work. So look, last question for the audience. If there was one thing that you would ask all of us or encourage all of us to do to continue our support of the community and improving the experience, what would that be?
Well, I would say be an ally. Diversity is good for our business. Diversity is good for all of us. And I think that sometimes we think, that doesn't affect me, or this isn't my place, or, I'm afraid to say the wrong thing. Hear that a lot. And I would say, don't be afraid. We need you. We need your allyship. Help amplify the voices, because sometimes that's all we need, or that smile, right? It can really make a difference, I think, especially in the workplace.
Cool.
I agree. I think showing up is definitely what I would say, the one action, whether that's showing up to a community festival or a rally, or even just showing up online and a simple retweet to boost the message. I know, intervention, it can be something that you grow into and work towards, but just being there as an ally, like Ellen, like you said, is really important.
Look, I could talk to you all for another 2 or 3 hours. It's been an incredible conversation. So all of you listeners, the audience, thank you for tuning in again. I hope today's conversation has been a value add for you. I hope it has inspired you to raise your voice. Please be sure to be a part of this mission. Make sure that you're going to do what you can at least, to foster a more inclusive society for us all. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you.
To learn more about AT&T, subscribe to this channel, visit the AT&T newsroom, or watch more videos in the playlist seen here.